I'm Vance Bastian here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge Season 10, Episode 22 interview. We'll be talking with Patricia Grayhall and discussing her novel, A Place for Us, right there above my shoulder. So let me introduce our guest. Patricia Grayhall is a medical doctor and author of the award-winning memoir Making the Rounds, Defying the Norms in Love and Medicine, and a romance novel, Golden Years and Silver Linings, with wife and author Linda M. Ford. She has authored articles in Queer 40, the Gay and Lesbian Review, The Millions, Lesbian Game Changers, the Seattle Lesbian, Seattle Magazine, and has been interviewed on NPR. Currently, Patricia is working on her third novel, an environmental crime novel, and of all of her now, oh, excuse me, all of her novels are inspired by real life experiences. One of the advantages of being an older author. Patricia lives with the love of her life on an island in the Pacific Northwest where she enjoys other people's dogs and occasional sightings of orca, eagles, otters, and black bears. Patricia, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Sounds like you live in paradise, I just gotta say.
I do. I have to say it was only 10 days ago that a black bear walked right under our balcony.
Wow. Wow. So, I know you've been in the show before, but if listeners haven't heard it, let me just ask a quick, with your medical profession and everything that was going on, why did you first decide to write? Like, where was that passion?
Sure. So it began in 2019. We were downsizing, and I was looking at through some old journals just before I was going to toss them into the burn barrel, and and they were from the late 60s and 70s when I was coming out as a lesbian and training to be a doctor. And I thought, this is really good stuff and historical. So I should make an attempt to write. And I had never written creatively before. So I knew that I needed to learn more about the craft. So I took courses and I took a 6-month memoir writing course. And at the end of it, it turns out my coach for this was a publisher, asked me if I wanted to publish what I'd written, which was very scary, but I decided to do it, and uh, and that led to making the rounds. And one of my motivations was really, I don't think at the time I thought young people just didn't know what it was like
Hmm.
to get into medical school before Title IX guaranteed women equal access to education, or what it was like when to have an illegal abortion when it was illegal in most states and before Roe, and also, what it was like when the culture of medicine was totally male dominated. So, and to have no mentors, um,
Hmm.
female mentors. So that led, yeah, that was my motivation for writing it. And I had no idea where it would lead me. And wrote in the book a lot about personal life and, you know, stumbling through relationships and the medical training and some cringeworthy moments I'd rather forget. But I think that, uh, and some friends thought I probably shared too much, but that's what happens when you tell the truth, and telling the truth is what humanizes you for readers. So
Right, right.
I took that gamble, and the book got a lot of awards, but what really made it worthwhile for me was the feedback that I got from readers that said, "Oh my God, I saw myself in your book, and I really appreciate you writing it." And that validation that I made some people feel less alone was what made it really all worthwhile for me.
Well, I mean, one, it makes you legendary, and two, I hope somebody has given you a t-shirt that says Trailblazer.
No, but yeah,
Well, you've earned it.
thanks.
So let's talk about the new novel, A Place for Us.
Yeah, so people said to me, so where's the sequel? What happened next? And I didn't really feel like I had another memoir in me, but the advantage of being an older author is that, I've had lots of experiences, made lots of mistakes, learned from them, and have a treasure trove of stories to tell. And but writing a memoir, when you get closer to the present in time, privacy becomes more of a concern.
Hmm.
And so that's when I discovered autofiction, which is now my writing sweet spot. And it allows me to draw on my own experiences, but also um, to explore larger social and political themes in my books um, as well. And
So for people who aren't in the book world, we should define autofiction.
autofiction, basically, it is, well, I think most novelists draw from their own lives.
Hmm.
Uh, so I drew heavily from my own life in writing A Place for Us, my current novel that's just out, has been out a week.
Right.
And uh, but here's the thing. The characters in the books are not me, and they're
Mhm.
not my wife. For one thing, they're way better looking and younger.
Oh,
Oh, come now.
And the other thing is that uh, I really do blur the lines between fact and fiction to tell a story and also to delve into some larger social issues. For example, um, well, the part that is pretty much follows our life is the immigration part. So picture this. It's 2003, and my wife and I meet again after 22 years. And we decide that we know that we're still in love.
hmm,
But she's British and I'm American, and neither the UK nor the US recognizes same-sex couples for immigration.
right.
Canada does, but we have to show that we've lived together for a year, but there is no country in which we can live together legally.
Mm.
So, catch 22. So that part is very much true that in the book about what happened to us.
Hmm.
Other things, are pure imagination. For example, well, Jo is, first of all, she's an environmental attorney, not a physician, and she litigates against big oil, and she's involved in a oil spill in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and also I explore um, the one issue I wanted to explore was why normally healthy and intelligent people find themselves trapped in abusive relationships. So the exes in my book are difficult people.
Hmm.
And some of those scenes with the exes are, you know, part of imaginary storytelling to make a point.
Right.
And
But most of the situations stem from truth.
well, the situations about our meeting and our immigration experience are, yeah, pretty
Right.
much follow ours with some modifications, but for to serve the story. So that's the beauty of audit fiction. You can take your experience and mold it and craft it into something that can explore larger themes and social issues.
Right. So in a place for us, you've introduced Jo. Should we introduce her wife?
Yes. Well, Jo is the environmental attorney, not
Hmm.
me again. And Lauren is, she is British, but she works for movie companies, and her lots of the characteristics are different than my wife. So,
Right. So the story spans what element of time?
so they meet in 1981 and fall in love
Hmm.
briefly because, but they're thwarted by the vast ocean and immigration laws of the time. And the fact that Jo is just beginning her career and, moving to the UK is not an option, and vice versa. So they part. And they keep in touch though, and by letter and phone, um, but don't see each other until 22 years later when Lauren's partner urges them to see if they can stay with Joe in San Francisco to save on money while they visit the United States. Lauren says this is not a good idea, but but her partner persists, and they end up arriving on Joe's doorstep. So, that leads to a lot of dramatic scenes involving the two of them and their exes, or well, their soon-to-be exes.
Yep.
And and but they find their passion is even stronger than before. But even should they try to live together, there's this difficulty of not being able to live together in either of their home countries legally.
Right. One of the other topics that we were given was the peril of concealing one's identity. Is one of the characters still fairly closeted?
Um, Actually, that doesn't, uh, well, that came up more in Making the Rounds, of course, because it was based in the
Got
late
it.
60s, early 70s. But by 1981, when they first meet, um, being closeted was not so much an issue. It was a little bit of an issue for Joe, the environmental attorney, but
Hmm.
later, in 2003, it was not an issue. But uh, I think that uh, well, I, it. Speaking of identities, and just if I may diverge slightly,
Yeah, of
I
course.
think, lately it's readers have really demanded representation of to see themselves in literature.
Hmm.
And I think part of it too is that queer people want to be seen as complex, multifaceted individuals, not just based on, seen as
The sexuality.
the other
Right.
sexuality.
Right.
Hmm.
So, so I think it's important in literature to describe their whole lives. And that's what I attempted to do in mine. I thought it was important in Making the Rounds to not just talk about the grueling nature of my medical training, but also my complex and difficult personal relationships
Hmm.
during that time. And the same thing in A Place for Us. These are complex women with multifacets to their life, their professions, their career aspirations and various
Right.
things. So anyway, and also I had hoped that my books would reach a larger audience because I think queer representation and in literature builds empathy and understanding in
Hmm.
others. So yeah,
Right. Even taking the fiction element out of it, seeing oneself on the page and seeing
yeah,
oneself as a person. And in your case, two very accomplished women navigating a love story, but there they are in their careers, growing from the 80s through the present. That's huge. And being able to see that as a young person, that's full of meaning.
sure, yeah. And the other thing too is that I mean, queer people have led amazing lives, even in the face of quite a, even without significant social support.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and we've been through, well, at least I've been through times that were almost as dark as they are at the moment, um, and survived and thrived. And
Right.
that gives hope to people who are shocked, young people who are shocked as to what's happening now because they've never experienced that before, some of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's also interesting because, we talk about all of the strides we've made, but at
mhm,
the same time, the needle hasn't really moved a whole lot on a lot of the things we thought we had accomplished. And I think when people see themselves reflected in these stories, it gives them permission to say, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, okay, this is still going on.
mhm,
So I think it gives it gives a way a way for you as a writer to connect with the audience and to allow them space in the story that they're reading that they can feel validated and seen, don't you think?
Absolutely. That was what I was really aiming for, with both my books and also a place for us is a romance, and because it's a ro well, it's a romance and a meditation on belonging, um, and uh, and I think that uh, and all romances have happy endings, as
Right,
our
right.
as
Yeah.
our life actually did. And I think that it gives people hope that despite seemingly insurmountable obstacles, love can prevail. So,
What a beautiful message for Pride Month.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely. Absolutely.
right.
Plus, I think that the youth are actually hungry for seeing the representation that came before them. You have the success of Fellow Travelers, where we not only had the male gay couples, but you also had the lesbians who
Mhm.
went through something very traumatic. And I think one of the things I've seen in a lot of the reactions on YouTube to people watching the show, a lot of the children out there, they actually are more appreciative of where the queer community came from. And the one thing they always chime on is they always say, "Look at how resilient we are." And
Mhm.
that's what I think stories like the ones you write, I think that is what underscores. And I think the youth, the queer youth that's out there that's starting to absorb these stories, I think if you write, especially if you write for older characters, that they see a future for themselves. They
Mhm.
see that the struggle is real, but how powerful we are as a community and how resilient we are. So I think it gives them hope
Mhm.
that they can find their way, which I think is very important, especially in these divided times. America's on the verge of imminent collapse if we're not careful, and we, as queer people, are dead smack center in the middle of it because now that they've pushed off abortion, we're back in their sights again. And so that's why we do this podcast, is because we want to make sure voices like yours are heard and seen. So
Yeah.
I think it's very important, and I really applaud you for doing these types of stories because it is something that I think our queer youth need to see. They need to be reminded. I'm now seeing YouTube videos that young people are saying we need to go back to pride being what it was in the
Mhm.
past, which is huge for them to just acknowledge and say, wait, we've lost the plot here. We need to go back to protecting ourselves, and that's a really powerful thing. And I think books like yours help promote that because it
Right.
gives them space to say, you know what? She's right. I got this. I got this now. I got it.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's it's interesting. Well, just to go back to the representation, I just want to mention that romance that I wrote with my wife, which was really an experiment because when I wrote Making the Rounds, I'm sitting there at my computer with my back to her writing about my old girlfriends and she didn't like that. So, understandably. So uh, I suggested we write a novel together, a romance. So we did, and we had a lot of fun doing it together. Um, and I self-published it just because I wanted to see what that was like, because my other books are published with a publisher. And and it's interesting because the protagonists are older. They meet when they're younger, but then get together again in their late 60s. And I got all this feedback about thanking me for having older protagonists.
Hmm.
Kind of the point of the book is that passion is not dead. When you're in your 60s, it's not too late.
Hmm.
So, so, so that was fun doing that. And I was surprised that really, every day I look and somebody's reading it. Even
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, one of the things we as authors tend to forget, it's a lonely craft because you're just you
Mhm.
and the screen and
Right,
you're typing
right.
away, but you don't really understand, it doesn't really hit you until the book is out and people comment and come back to you and say
Hmm.
these things. You go, oh, wait, what I'm doing is making a difference,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and not just me going, boop, 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 boop,
Hmm.
right. And just even though my book has only been out a week, I have gotten some messages, you know, on Facebook or whatever, like, does your book tell us how to immigrate to Canada?
Oh, sadly,
And
this is not a how-to manual.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not an
YouTube's for
attorney.
that.
Yeah. Although I put a couple of references in the back of some organizations in the United States that help same-sex couples who might be having difficulties immigrating to the United States, if there are any who want to do that right now. So,
Nice. So, is there anything about A Place for Us that you want people to know that we didn't think to ask?
um, well, I think that well, I think I've mentioned it already, but it is basically um, a romance at its core,
Hmm.
and it's a happy ending, and it's a hopeful book. Um, and I hope that people will read it and feel better after reading it. So that's my hope, and
Oh,
and I'll show you the book. Do you want to see
Yeah, yeah,
the nice cover? Um,
yeah. There you go.
I'll-
I love it. When it showed up, I was like, "Ooh, my summer reads here."
I have to say my publisher does nice covers,
I love
and
it.
also I would like to mention that I have just finished and the editing process has just completed for my thriller that I have written. I'm changing genres again.
The environmental thriller.
Yeah, the environmental thriller, and um, and that's been really fun to write. It's again Jo, the environmental attorney, is featured, and she's up against big oil again, but she's, um, her one of her close friends is a physician, and she's been arrested for bank robbery. Um, and that's a whole web that has to be unwound in the book, which has been really fun to write. So I'm having a great time. My new career as a writer, learning how to write different genres of books.
Do you have a favorite so far? Because this is your third genre that I'm aware of.
Yes. Well, every my most recent book that I've been writing is always my favorite book. So
Fair.
so I'm really excited about the thriller, although now, I'm in the throes of promoting A Place for Us, and I'm back in being enthusiastic about that one too. So
Ah, thrillers wrapped in cotton candy love. What
There you
more can
go.
you want?
There you go.
right.
Are you ready for our get to know you questions?
Sure.
Take it away,
Okay.
Bess.
All right. Well, just briefly, if you enjoy the content that we're doing here, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. And also help support us by going to patreon.com/podcast and taking a look at what we have. We have several offerings up there that you can peruse and help us out financially by supporting us either with a monthly donation or purchasing one of the reactions that we have up there that are individually sold. So it's another way for helping us, or go to buymeacoffee.com/podcast. All right. So delving into the weeds, can you name a movie that was better than the book?
I think I had to think hard on that one because I usually like books better than the movies.
Mm,
Because
mm,
I'm a reader,
mm-hmm.
'cause I like to use my own imagination. But um, I think fried green tomatoes was one
Oh,
that I
Good choice. Good choice. Good choice.
because of the actresses, and it just, warms my heart. I've seen it several times.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Totally in agreement there. And we have a reaction to it up on our website. So
mhm.
definitely check that out. All right. Which fictional character would you most like to be friends with?
Mm. Well, when I was a kid, it was Scout and Dill in To Kill a Mockingbird. I really wanted to be their friends.
Yeah, it's funny because her older brother is kind of the straight man in that little
Yeah,
trio. He doesn't really have a ton to do. It's all from Scout's point of view. So
yeah,
I'm totally with you with her.
yeah.
I'm totally with you.
They would be totally fun to play with.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's my kind of girl. All right. What is the most fascinating fact that you know?
Oh, that was really hard. I
Wait, you're writing an environmental crime thriller. You've got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
uncovered
And you're a
something.
doctor. Come on.
I know. Oh, well, this is, I'm also fascinated with na everything nature.
Mm,
So, um, I guess, recently I saw how bowerbirds make these amazing, elaborate nests to try to attract a mate, and how that behavior can be totally programmed into their DNA is hard to imagine.
yeah,
But just watching how all this elaborate effort that they go to make this beautiful nest or beautiful, creations to attract a mate is just amazing to me, as so, are so many things in nature.
right, right. I
Oh,
love the ones that where the male does a dance and the
oh yeah,
female sit and watch. I think that's excellent. I think it's so funny. I
yeah.
love that. All right. Well, what was your favorite subject in school?
Oh, it was biology. Of course, I went into medicine, but I debated early on whether I'd become a field biologist. So,
Okay. All right. Well, before making a telephone call, do you rehearse what you're going to say?
ever. No, I usually wing it, and I'm also, when I write, I'm pretty much of a pantser. I just,
Yay.
yeah.
Totally down with you on that one. All right. I put signposts, but who knows if I'll hit them. You know? All right.
So,
What current event or causes are you most passionate about?
oh, I think I'm most passionate about trying to do something to mitigate climate change and also save habitat for animals that are disappearing like crazy from the earth. So I think those are my most passionate causes. Although I have to say, saving democracy is
Yeah,
kind
well, yeah.
of
Yeah.
I think
rising.
that's on everybody's
Right.
bingo card this time around.
Um,
All right. Well, if you could visit anywhere in the world, where would that be?
well, I was thinking about that. I've been to many places. One of the things I've always wanted to do is take a train across Canada. So in
Mm.
fact, I'm doing that this summer, going from Vancouver to Halifax.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a
love that.
story in that too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Take notes. Take notes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Who, if anyone, was your first celebrity crush?
This really dates me. Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice.
Any particular era of her life?
In the era?
Yeah, yeah. What part of her what part of
Oh,
her career did you go, "Oh,
well, the early stuff, what she did with horses and
uh,
what was it, Black Beauty or something?
National Velvet, wasn't it?"
National
Yeah,
Velvet, right?
Velvet,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 Excellent. All right. Well, what's your personal favorite recipe that you make, and are you willing to share it with us?
Well, I'm not much of a cook. My wife is wonderful in that department, but my specialty is I make awesome buttermilk pancakes.
Oh, well,
Nice.
there's not gonna be, yeah, I would definitely, okay, sign me up. All right. Well, you made it through our list. Bravo.
Good.
Hmm.
And I have to say, you could actually, do a whole nother genre. I was just thinking about that. You remember the movie Silver Streak back in the 70s? You could do something like that on your trip across Canada.
Oh, right, right. Well,
Do a whole nother one.
I certainly will take my computer along and my journal. And
Right. There you go. There you go.
yeah, we have no stops between Vancouver and Toronto.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Just a constant motion.
Yeah, all kinds of things can go on.
I mean, they might stop somewhere, but we don't get off.
Right,
Ah,
right.
okay.
Well, having made it through the list, we're going to ask what's up next. So let's focus on A Place for Us first, do you have other appearances or interviews you're doing that you want people to know about?
I do. This weekend, I'm going to be at Village Books in Bellingham to give an hour-long talk
Perfect.
focused on A Place for Us. And I'm also going to be appearing in person in Canada on Vancouver Island at in the Souk Library on the 19th of June. So
Nice. And are you making any announcements yet about the thriller, or just what you've shared with us, and that's all you're sharing right now?
Yeah, I'm not. I have an awesome cover. I have an awesome editor, and it'll be pretty much ready to go by July.
Okay.
But I'm not going to put it out until January because I just can't deal with promoting two books at
Right, two books at the same time.
two different genres.
You're all, what world am I in? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, really. They're
So-
very different audience, I think.
Sure. Where is the best place for people to follow you to get updates on appearances as well as upcoming works?
I think my website is the best place, www.patriciagrayhall.com. And I'm also on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and I'm on Instagram. So those are the best places to follow me. I have a publicist too, which is Get Read PR. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Do you have any final words of wisdom?
Oh, well, I guess I'd just like to say for people who might be aspiring writers but haven't started is that writing is not an innate talent necessarily. It's basically something you can learn. And one of the secrets is just, take lots of courses, form a critique group, and write something every day.
There you go.
Beautiful.
There you go. Absolutely.
All right, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Patricia Grayhall for being with us. Patricia, thank you for coming back and sharing your new novel.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Been our pleasure. We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. The show was produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
And I learned something new about autofiction, so I could go back to bed now. I've learned my thing for the day.
Oh.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.